If you spend enough years working with catastrophe models in the insurance world, you start to see a pattern. It's a strange kind of paradox. Our analytics get more and more sophisticated, but our decisions don't always get better. We build these really elegant, intricate worlds inside a computer, only to watch them smash into the messy, complicated reality of a big company. This is kind of my reflection on that journey, on that gap between the map and the territory. This quote, it just captures the whole problem perfectly. We spend so much time perfecting the map, right? Debating every little contour and projection. But the real work, the place where value is actually created, happens when that map meets the really difficult terrain of the real world. The world of underwriting and pricing and big capital decisions. So, to really get why this collision is so jarring, we first have to appreciate why that world inside the model is so compelling. What is it about this simulated reality that just pulls us in so deeply? Well, the appeal really starts with this fundamental contrast. The real world of natural disasters is chaotic, it's unpredictable, it's deeply complex. The simulation, on the other hand, is a place of order. It's a controlled environment where we can at least try to make sense of all that chaos, to put some boundaries around the uncertainty, and give it a name and a number. At its heart, a catastrophe model is just a remarkable tool. It's designed to look beyond what we have in our often short and kind of inadequate historical claims records. It combines things like meteorology and seismology and engineering with an insurer's own data to simulate thousands of possible future years. It gives us a much richer picture of what could happen, not just what has happened. And this gets to the core psychology of it all. As the author Thompson talks about, this simulated world is just so intellectually satisfying. Every single assumption is explicit, every variable can be controlled, there are no legacy systems to deal with, no arguments between departments, no pressure to hit sales goals. It's this clean, logical space where we can get a single, precise answer. And boy, that is incredibly seductive. But of course, we can't stay in that clean, logical space forever. The model's entire purpose is to inform decisions out here, in the real world. And this is where the collision happens. This is where the simulation meets the organization. And this just illustrates that contrast perfectly. Inside the model, everything is unified and consistent. But a real insurance company? Well, that's a complex human system. It's fragmented across underwriting, claims, finance, reinsurance. Decisions are slow, sometimes they're political. Implementing a change isn't just a simple parameter shift, it is an operational marathon. This is the friction. This is the space where pure analysis has to meet reality. So the crucial point is this. The risk we're actually trying to manage, the real financial danger to the company, it doesn't exist inside the computer. It exists out here. And to manage it, the insights we generate have to survive the journey out of that simulated world. So this brings us right to the heart of the matter. If we produce a brilliant piece of analysis, a totally new view of risk, what happens next? Where are the organizational barriers that so often just stop that insight from becoming meaningful action? I like to think of this whole process as a gauntlet. A model's output doesn't just show up and become the truth. No, it has to survive a whole series of tests. It has to be built on good data, it's got to be integrated into underwriting workflows, it has to inform the reinsurance strategy, and at the end of the day, it has to be compelling enough to actually influence executive decisions about capital and risk appetite. We spend a massive amount of time and intellectual energy right here. We validate the hazard, we debate the vulnerability curves, we refine the financial math down to the last decimal point. The technical rigor is just immense. But this is the pivot. Because the most sophisticated model in the world is absolutely useless if its recommendations can't be implemented. The real fight, it isn't about the model's math, it's about the organization's ability to actually act on what the math is telling us. And the points of failure are often frustratingly practical. Inconsistent exposure data, that's a classic. Garbage in, garbage out, right? Poor decision hygiene, where choices are made without a clear, repeatable process. And there's the constant battle between underwriting discipline and the pressure to write more business. And of course, the simple fact that risk decisions are often owned by many different people, with no single point of accountability. The model tells you to avoid a certain risk, but can the organization actually execute that strategy day after day across hundreds of different underwriters? Now, I know this might all sound a little bit cynical, but it's not an argument against modeling. In fact, it's the opposite. It's an argument for understanding where the model's true and often invisible value really comes from. The story of modern catastrophe modeling really begins here, with Hurricane Andrew back in 1992. Before we had widespread model adoption, the industry just fundamentally misunderstood its exposure concentrations. The storm's aftermath was a brutal wake-up call. Today, yeah, major events are still painful, but the industry is far more resilient. And that's precisely because these models have forced a discipline around pricing, reinsurance, and capital that simply didn't exist before. This number says it all. 11. 11 carriers failed, not because they were bad companies, but because they were blindsided by a risk they just couldn't properly measure. They were relying on a map that was missing a huge part of the territory. So this is the unseen victory. A good model, when it's effectively implemented, helps an organization avoid a bad future. A portfolio manager tightens underwriting guidelines in a specific area. A reinsurance buyer adds another layer of protection. Then the hurricane comes, and the company survives without a major issue. You can never point to that success on a spreadsheet. It's a counterfactual, a loss that was avoided. And that is the true quiet return on investment. So after all these years of seeing this pattern play out, it's forced me to really reconsider how we should be judging the success of all this work, of all this analysis. We spend so much time on this question. It absolutely dominates our technical discussions, our validation exercises, our debates with vendors. Is it accurate? Does it reflect reality perfectly? And of course, that's an important question to ask. But I've come to believe this is the better, more valuable question. Did the analysis change a decision? Did it make an underwriter decline a risk they would have otherwise written? Did it convince the board to allocate capital differently? Because at the end of the day, a model that is technically perfect but changes nothing, well, it's just an expensive academic exercise. But a model that's imperfect, yet makes the organization act more intelligently, that's priceless. That is the real escape from model land.